ever held like a piece of history, something, really significant. I'm thinking about like a chunk of the Berlin Wall, chipped concrete, all that, sold as a souvenir.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 1990, like right after the wall came down, people were buying them up. They wanted to own a piece of that fallen barrier,
Right,
a
right.
symbol of a changing world, right?
It's more than just concrete, right? It's like a tangible reminder that things that seem completely unshakable can just crumble. Like
Ooh.
the walls of Constantinople, right? Centuries earlier,
Oh, yeah.
the Berlin Wall's collapse. It's a seismic shift in power dynamics. Big, big change.
And that's exactly what the sovereign individual is all about. We're going deep on this book, looking at excerpts, trying to understand the predictions about power, wealth, identity in the information age.
Yeah.
It's by James Dale Davidson and Lord William Rees-Mogg. Have you heard of them?
I have, yeah. They make some pretty bold claims.
Yeah, they do.
They argue essentially that we're seeing the nation state, its power is in decline, and that this is a transformation on par with like the decline of feudal lords, back during the agricultural revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And their reasoning is that the information age, what we're in right now, it disrupts this long-standing link between violence, control, and technology.
Okay, I have to admit, the way they tie in megapolitics, this idea, it's fascinating. So they claim that geography, climate, disease, but most importantly, technology, those have always determined who's in charge.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
Throughout history, you can see how those things have played a role.
It's like this grand tapestry of history, and these forces are weaving it all together.
Absolutely. Davidson and Rees-Mogg, they even connect agriculture and the tech revolution. They say that early farmers, those were the original disruptors.
Right.
Their innovations shifted power away from the hunter-gatherer societies, right? Like today's tech pioneers are driving a similar kind of shift.
It makes you think about the printing press.
Right.
They call it the first industrial revolution.
Makes sense.
Because suddenly, knowledge, it wasn't just for the elite anymore.
Yeah.
Mass production of information, it was possible, which meant control could be exerted in a whole new way.
Exactly. And this is really the foundation for how they look at industrial technology, right? So it brought about amazing advances, but it also created systems that were just ripe for centralized control. So you get large-scale factories, assembly lines. These were efficient, right? But they were vulnerable to disruption. And they became the backbone of these powerful nation states in the 20th century.
So are they saying that these huge systems, the ones that built empires, they're now leading to their downfall?
Yeah.
That's a bold statement.
It is. It's the core of their argument. Davidson and Rees-Mogg, they believe that those very forces, the ones that made nation states strong, they're now making them obsolete in the information age. They call it a ticking clock on their power. But to understand why, we need to look at digital assets and how those challenge the traditional rules of the game.
And this is where the sovereign individual gets really out there. The authors say that in the information age, like one person, they can have as much influence as like a whole country.
Wow.
Like they even use Bill Gates as an example. Like imagine the impact he could have in cyber warfare.
Right.
It could be on par with a whole nation state. It's kind of a scary thought when you really think about it.
It is a powerful image, yeah. But I think the real point here is about how digital assets, they change the whole game. They challenge traditional power in a way. Like imagine your wealth. It's not sitting in a vault somewhere, right? It's all in lines of code, encrypted networks, crossing borders without, a passport. This is where individuals, they can have a level of autonomy, influence that we've never seen before.
So are we saying that like countries are going to be begging for our attention, for our like talent, our investments?
That's what the authors argue, that traditional jurisdictions, they either adapt or they become irrelevant. Think about it. Individuals can just easily move their digital assets, their businesses, even their citizenship, to the most favorable place.
Right.
They believe this competition to attract sovereign individuals, that's going to be huge in the future.
It's like they say, the end of the tyranny of place. That's a powerful phrase because we're so used to defining ourselves by location, right? By our address, city, our country.
Absolutely.
What happens when those ties, they start to weaken? When our digital presence, it matters more than where we physically are.
It challenges how we see ourselves, doesn't it? Our identity. And it changes everything about work, too. The authors predict that, unskilled labor, it's not going to go away, but it'll be worth less. Because if you can find someone on the other side of the world who can do the same thing for a lot less money, that changes everything. The old link between location and livelihood, it's broken.
And then you have all these people who are left clinging to a system that just isn't working for them anymore.
Hmm.
It's no wonder there's so much uncertainty, fear, even unrest.
Exactly. And that's a big concern that they highlight in the book. They predict that nationalism, reactionary ideologies, those are going to be on the rise. As people who can adapt, they struggle to hold on to, a world order that is fading away. It's a warning. In the middle of all this talk about individual empowerment, this tension between individual freedom and keeping society stable.
It's interesting, but it's this idea of the sovereign individual that really captures the imagination. They paint this picture of a future where you could just negotiate your tax rates with like a mini state or even start your own. It's kind of like, are we headed for utopia or anarchy? I don't know.
That's the million-dollar question. And the authors, they admit it's complicated. They see this change happening not through some violent revolution, but just a gradual kind of, I don't know, fragmentation of power as people opt out of systems that don't work anymore, right?
Sure.
They create this space for new, more personalized forms of governance. Whether it leads to chaos or a more equal society, we don't know. But it's interesting to think about how governance might evolve in this century.
It does make you think. It's like thousands of mini states all competing for, your loyalty. It sounds like something out of science fiction.
Yeah, it does.
But if we're all basically our own little nations, what happens to shared values? To like a sense of morality? The authors even say, don't just blindly trust any one ideology. History shows us that doesn't usually end well. So if that old saying, think globally, act locally, if that doesn't work anymore, what guides our moral compass in this new world?
That's the core question, really. And it's something they struggle with throughout the book. They're particularly worried about what they call victimhood as a political strategy. In a world where the old ways of discriminating, they're harder to enforce. They think people might hold on to a sense of grievance as a way to gain power.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. It feels like we're on the edge of something totally new, like we've never been here before.
I think that's right. Whether you agree with everything in the sovereign individual or not, it makes you face some hard truths about where we're headed. The old ways are changing, and the digital revolution, it's speeding things up in ways we're just starting to grasp.
It's like that saying, the future is already here.
Yeah.
It's just not evenly distributed yet.
Yeah.
We can see pieces of this sovereign individual future happening already, can't we?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Cryptocurrency, the rise of remote work,
Mm.
the tools are there, and the trends, they're all lining up, just like the book describes. The question is, how do we handle this shift as individuals and as a society?
That's the big question.
Right. So if this future is coming, ready or not, what can we do today to get ready? Like, what actual steps can we take to do well in a world where power is shifting so dramatically?
The sovereign individual, it doesn't give you a step-by-step guide, but it stresses that being adaptable. That's key in this new world. The authors are very clear. Those who embrace change, who learn and adapt to this new world order, they'll be the ones who thrive.
So it's not about like hoarding gold bars. It's about sharpening our minds.
Exactly. They want us to become lifelong learners, to be curious, to question what we think we know about how the world works. The most valuable thing in this new world is not money. It's the ability to adapt, to think critically, and make good decisions, even when things are constantly changing.
So we're not trying to predict the future perfectly. We're just trying to be ready for anything. Right? The sovereign individual is a call to action. It's an invitation to really look at the forces shaping our world and to take control of our own destinies in this time of massive change.
So the question for you, our listener, is what kind of sovereign individual will you choose to be? It's something to think about as we move into this uncharted territory. And as always, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep with us.